Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Joe Lazarich. I'm with the Diocese of Rockville Center. Our topic today is managing inventory, keeping inventory fresh, and maximizing sales. You've heard it all day from many different groups, from Ralph, from Dave, how important this topic is to keep your store fresh, to keep people coming back, and obviously you want that. That's how you build your business. Okay, basically, the breakdown of what we're going to be discussing today is managing inventory. Culling, what is culling? Does everybody know what culling means? I'll be honest with you, I had no idea what it meant either. But my partner here, Holly, from the Midwest, she's very familiar with this term. Okay. And why is culling one of the most important operations in a thrift store? The first thing you have to do is create a system, and we've heard this too. The bottom line is everybody does things a little bit different. Whatever works in your area may not work in somebody else's. You got the options to identify aging inventory. We talk a lot about clothing all day. We're big in furniture, and furniture has that same process per se. It just takes a little longer. Like Dave mentioned this morning, the aging of a garment should be no longer than 1 month. Furniture's a little longer, and I'll talk about that, or if anybody has questions in reference to that. Scheduling, calendar options, and then managing the process. So not only do you have to set this process and get the ball rolling, you have to make sure it's maintained. There's a lot involved, and you just got to make sure it's consistent and maintained. And what does the store do after it culls? Again, that word culling gets me every time.
Is it a dance?
And
No.
Kind of is.
And then we'll take questions on anything you have. And I'm going to hand it over to Holly. Oh, I'm still going. Never mind, I'm still going. Culling. What is culling? She planned this, because I have no idea what this word means. The process of removing aging items from store inventory in order to have fresh merchandise for customers to choose from. That's the most important thing. And whatever procedure you use, like I said, you just got to make sure it's consistent and you follow it. Why stores need to cull? Thrifters know the merchandise in the store and are constantly looking for new items. They know the store better than you do. We have consistent people that come in on a regular basis. They go through the merchandise, and they'll tell you if the clothing's stagnant, the furniture's stagnant. The fresher a store's inventory, the more times a customer will visit in a week or a month. Totally true. They'll come back. You want that customer to continuously come back, so you have to make sure the store is very fresh. The longer an item lingers in the store, the less likely it is to sell, regardless of what it is. If it doesn't sell in a week or less, the chance of it selling drops to 30% unless something is done. Again, Ralph and Dave talked about that. Culling provides the opportunity to place new items on the floor, thus driving sales. I'm going to hand it over to Holly now.
Okay, culling, for all of y'all who've never heard the term before, if you're in ranching or farming, culling is when you take the herd and you move them out. You get rid of the weak, you get rid of the infirm, you get rid of the old. But it was not created. It is a retail term. So my name's Holly Osborne. I'm from the Dallas area. I've been with St. Vincent de Paul exactly 1 year yesterday. And I brought 30 years of retail experience from being in corporate offices to the field to the job. And when I sat in a meeting last January with the team, with the committee, store committee members, a light bulb literally went off over my head when they started talking about culling and changing inventory. And it wasn't even what the topic was about. But in my mind, it was a perfectly good pair of jeans. If somebody didn't come in and for the right size that week, then the right size person would come in next week or next month, and it was good. Why would we get rid of it? But I'm telling y'all, this is the most important piece on your floor. Once you've got it up and going, you've got the donations coming through the back, it makes the difference in your sales. You can't hang on to something and get too emotionally attached to it, no matter how good of a piece of whatever it is. You got to move it out and move it through, and it makes the biggest difference. But that is the biggest obstacle that I think most people who've not been in the thrift business before come up against. They don't realize you got to turn it over, turn it over, turn it over. It's not a debate whether it's good or not. Okay, it's not a debate of how wonderful that piece of stuff is that's going out the back door. If you're not turning it over, you're not going to get the sales, because thrifters come in several times a week, several times a month, and when they don't find new stuff every time they come in, they start making their visits to your store further and further apart, and they start spending their dollars in other thrift stores. Okay, so you don't walk away with this, then I mean, this is what will make it, and it's the hardest thing for a traditional retailer to get in here. So, creating a system. There are dozens of ways to create a system. If you've got highlighters in a kitten calendar, you can create a system, okay? I mean, there's really no excuse. It doesn't have to be fancy, and that's what we're going to show you, all the different options. There are certainly fancier things out there. So there's different options to identify your aging inventory. You can have colored tags, stickers, plastic taggers, highlighters, etc. to do it. It does not need to be expensive, but you have got to have a process that is doable. I went back to my store, operation for 10 years. I thought everything was going smoothly. You'll see some tickets come up here in a little bit. They were literally reading every single ticket and looking at a date, doing mathematics to figure out how long it had been out there. Do you think that was being done and done well? No. So you've got to have a system that's real easy to do it. For me, I'm visual. Color is the easiest way to do it. And you can set it up for a 2-week cycle or a 4-week cycle. You have plastic stickers. The top ones are ones that you put on clothing. The bottom ones are stickers to put on your hardline goods. You've got more colored tags. You have some that are barcode across the top to tag. My store uses the little plastic taggers that you actually attach the inventory with. The stores that do just straight up pricing, like $4 for a shirt, $5 for pants, a lot of them, since they're not putting a physical sticker on those clothing items, they just tag it, but they tag it in the same place, just with a little piece of plastic, and that's how they identify their inventory and what it is, just by using the simple little tagging done in the taggers for that. You need to have a scheduling. There's different kind of calendar options, and some of these, there's a handout up here that has a couple of them, one on either side, so you can take an example home with you of what a tagging calendar looks like. But you need to decide on what your cycle length is going to be. 3 to 6 weeks. 6 weeks is pushing it. Part of that has to do with your donations coming in and how what your sales are. We're on a 4-week sales cycle in my store. You got to draw it up and you got to follow it. Okay, you got to figure out what it's going to be. You got to put it in place, and everybody's got to go with it. So this is just going by the week. We have 5 colors we rotate. We pull the color off the floor on Sundays, so we only have, in theory, 4 colors on our floor at any given time. This is another one. This will be up on the website as well. This is an Excel spreadsheet. It's very user-friendly. You put in the date, and you pick your colors and how many weeks you want to rotate it, and it fills it in for you, so you'll have the access to that. This is a different one where it shows what they put up and put down, because there are different processes. Once you get going, you can just have a piece of white paper in the back, and you just put the order of what you're going to do each week. If you don't want to get down to doing I like the kitten calendar idea better because it's easier to keep up with, but you can just simply have that. Once you create your system, you have to manage the process. You need an exit strategy. How are you going to get it off the floor? You need to track departments that are called to manage stock specific categories. You need to make sure you know what you're pulling off your floor and what you're doing with it. You need to make good business decisions depending on availability of goods. If you're low in a particular department, you may skip culling blue jeans out of men's one cycle, but you have to keep track of all that kind of stuff so you know what's going on. Not all items should be culled. Men's jeans, seasonal during season. If you have, some of the stores do like Packer displays, or I'm thinking of Madison, they have school displays. If you have great seasonal sports merchandise and you've done a big display, you don't need to pull your Cowboys jerseys off the floor in the middle of the Cowboys season if you have some special. So there's some decisions you need to put in there with it. The way it works in our store, it goes out for 2 weeks at normal price. The third week, it's 50% off. The fourth week, it's 75% off. And then it can go to a clearance rack, or it can just go to the baler, it can go to your pound store, or whatever else you need it for. What do you do with it once you close? Clearance rack with a single price point. We have a single price point where it's a buck an item once it gets there. One more chance, we've already invested the money in putting it on a hanger and putting it on the floor. It gets a little stamp. Pound store. Some of the conferences, some of the stores have pound stores they can ship it to. You can put it in your donation or your voucher client cycle to keep good things within, special needs donations. There are certain different, we have a house in a box program. So if it's great, if it's really good china and stuff like that, we send it over to that program. If it's jeans, send it to your local men's homeless shelter or something of that nature. Go ahead, you can recycle it for money. Okay, okay. Questions?
I just want to reiterate the point though. The bottom line is, Holly does it a little different than we do. We don't do the 50%, 75%. We generally rotate our stock for a month period of time, and then it goes to 50% off at that point, and then it's gone. So again, whatever works in your area, whatever makes you have the ability to keep your store fresh and keep bringing those customers back is the way you should continue to do it.
There's different exit strategies, but